Is it possible to increase IQ with a pill, with a supplement, a nootropic, a drug even? Well, yes, it's very possible, and it's already been done, surprisingly, and you probably already consumed this substance that does do this, believe it or not, because nicotine is a cognitive enhancer. They've tested people before and after consuming nicotine, tested both times on an intelligence test, and they found afterwards they scored significantly higher. That is just a test, that is not the real world, but it is very applicable and valid results, to be honest. And the name of the game here is increasing cognition in healthy adults. Success and intelligence are positively correlated, where if you are smarter statistically, you have a higher social economic status, you're more successful in life overall. And if you can increase your intelligence through exogenous means, one would assume you can be more successful. I am not the smartest guy as well. I am merely assimilating knowledge from different sources to the benefit of you. Firstly, we want to look at receptors, and with glutamate, it really is the tale of two, with the AMPA receptors and the NMDA receptors. With both of these are very important for your mood, your memory, and your overall cognition. Except with glutamate, slight and subtlety is the key, because you don't want to be too significant, because if you increase glutamate too much, you increase excitotoxicity, which is neurotoxic, which is the overstimulation and destruction of neurons. They say glutamate is the basis of thought itself, where it is the gas pedal in the brain, in contrast to GABA, which is very much the brake. And please consider subscribing if you are enjoying this video. First target is the AMPA PAMs. The easiest and most accessible, affordable, and effective way to target this pathway is by experimenting with the first classical racetams like piracetam, oxiracetam, and aniracetam, and that they all hit on this pathway quite significantly. And then afterwards you can expand, but you have to build the foundation of the house, and then you build the house on top of it, right? Next is the NMDA receptors, which stands for N-methyl deaspirate. Even more so, it is important for synaptic plasticity, which is very akin to neuroplasticity, which is the ability to change to the environment, to better adapt. You know, it is cognitive flexibility compared to cognitive rigidness. You know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or kids learn so fast, right? And synaptic plasticity is believed to be a cornerstone of memory and learning, and even more so intelligence, where dysfunctions of synaptic plasticity have been shown in autism and intellectual disabilities, and is very important for overall cognition. And there's a few different ways to hit these receptors, except the simplest and easiest way for most people is to take pregnenolone sublingually, which is the body's natural NMDA PAM. And you can take it at doses at 5 to 10 milligrams, and it's going to be the most efficacious as well as the most androgenic. Next is the alpha-7 nicotinic receptors, where you either want to ham these receptors or you want to agonize these receptors. And there's a few different ways that you can do this, except this is a very powerful pathway for cognitive enhancement, as well, surprisingly, as inflammation, where it's very anti-inflammatory, where smokers are a lot less likely to get Parkinson's. And that's even more so by Dr. Andrew Huberman's anecdote with his friend, who is a neuroscientist who consumes 6 pieces of nicotinic gum an hour, who swears by it for lowering the chance of neurodegenerative disease, because there is something very powerful there. Honestly, you know, controversial opinion, nicotine by itself is fine. Nicotine in cigarettes is bad, because there's a lot more of a powerful cue behavior reward model with that, coupled with some very prominent plasticity effects. Is not a good combo, as well as there's other addictive additives added to it to make it even more addictive, so it's not the best. So the best way to consume nicotine is lozenges, it's gum. Obviously are downsides to consuming too much nicotine, or to stimulating nicotinic or even cholinergic receptors too much as a whole, in that there is a specific set point or base point for most people, where some people can go a little bit too overboard with it, but for most people, if you stay in the normal dosage range, you will be fine, you will be happy, and you will be intelligent, sir. Next, you want to enhance your mitochondria, which is very much, you know, the powerhouse of the cell, except it's very true. You know, it is responsible for increasing ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is very much energy currency, giving you mental energy to devote to the task at hand. As a rule of thumb, increasing brain energy most of the time is pro-cognitive, and that is what you see where people with excellent mitochondria have excellent cognition, and people with dysfunctional mitochondria have poor cognition and are at increased risk of neurodegenerative disease like dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. And there is a belief that dysfunctional mitochondria are at the root cause of a lot of psychiatric disorders, and that is kind of pioneered by the work by Dr. Chris Palmer, who states that mitochondria is vital for the functioning of the brain, and when it is dysfunctional, it can cause these psychiatric conditions. And he recommends to his patients to go on a ketogenic diet because that basically dials up mitochondria and improves its function, which improves the symptoms of these disorders, where you're going to the root cause, not just treating the symptom. And you can increase mitochondria function in a variety of ways, like the ketogenic diet, by stimulating PCG1A, which increases mitochondria biogenesis. You can reduce oxidative stress in the mitochondria, therefore improving its function. You can take an electron donor like methylene blue is, which enhances the electron chain. The simplest solution for the most people is to supplement with methylene blue, except it does have some caveats, and you want to be a little bit careful and stay within the dosage range, and honestly probably stay a little bit low because it can be quite potent, and you want to be careful combining it with SSRIs. For other people that don't want to take that step, you could look at PQQ, you could look at coenzyme Q10 and NMN. PDE5 inhibition, which blocks an enzyme that regulates blood flow, so it increases blood flow systemically to your body and also to your brain. And almost always increasing blood flow to your brain is pro-cognitive. You know, it is, as they say, that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. PDE5 inhibition has a wealth of studies showing its positive effects for treating and preventing neurodegeneration and neurodegenerative diseases, and even enhancing cognition in healthy adults. Like, there's a lot of evidence here. Who would have thought compounds like Cialis, Viagra would be so effective for your head up here, not just down there, right? It also has positive effects for your androgens because a lot of things are interlinked within the body. If you affect this, it affects this. Just like metabolic health affects brain health. So you inhibit PDE5, you increase your hormonal function. A lot of people microdose Cialis because it is a longer half-life, around 36 hours. Viagra can be good to use acutely. And then on the vitamin and mineral side, we want to look at acetylcholine and choline itself, where 40% of UK adults have a choline deficiency, which is terrible because acetylcholine is so vital for cognitive function. If you look at any medication that treats neurodegenerative disease, all of them affects cholinergic function to some capacity. They either inhibit the breakdown, or they positively modulate or agonize the receptors, or they provide more precursors. And even so, a deficiency of choline results in a 15-point IQ drop that gets quickly resolved where there is a choline sufficiency. So it's very important. It's important for your autonomic nervous system and your top-down bottom control and your salience network, deciding what to pay attention to, as well as most of the basic nootropics affect this mechanism for good reason, because it is very important for memory, for focus, for physical movements, for anxiety, urination, bladder control or so. And if you have a choline deficiency, you're gonna be a little bit cognitively impaired and eventually develop fatty liver disease. So it's very important to have a sufficiency. You can do this easily with eggs or with supplements. It's not that hard to do. Eggs are probably the easiest for most people, except you can supplement exogenous choline through alpha GPC or CDP choline, whatever you prefer. Magnesium, another vital mineral that most people are deficient in because our soil has got depleted from it throughout the past few decades. So it's important to supplement, and that is kind of what you see with every health influencer preach ever, that they supplement magnesium because it is so vital. It is anti-cancer, it is neuroprotective, it increases your hormonal health, it balances your HPA axis and your stress response, it improves sleep. It is important for 300, almost 600 coenzyme reactions. It is vital. It is quintessential to the physical process of encoding memories, long-term potentiation. So it is very important for a multitude of factors. It very much acts as the buffer to your central nervous system, preventing overstimulation, maintains the electrolyte balance in the heart. Usually you need to take magnesium chelated with something to enhance its bioavailability. And so you could take different forms for different purposes. You want to hit your 200 milligrams of elemental magnesium as a daily value, and you can take magnesium threonate, which is best for cognition, magnesium cyclosamol, which is best for magnesium deficiency, or magnesium glycinate, which is best for sleep. Thiamine, probably the most important B vitamin for cognition. Surprisingly, this kind of baffled me when I discovered this, but thiamine is very important. Or even so, a thiamine deficiency, which I think 30 to 40% of people are deficient in, perfectly mirrors the pathology of Alzheimer's disease, where it is so vital for your brain and cognitive function and cognitive performance. A deficiency masquerades as a host of other conditions. It is known as the great imitator for this reason. Not even just having sufficiency, except going above and beyond that is important, because a sufficiency is enough to prevent something like scurvy, but not enough for health optimization overall. And it is very important for our gut to brain axis, where it is called the third brain, and it communicates with our first brain through the vagus nerve, and thiamine is essential for that process. At the end of the day, it is an easy, low-hanging fruit that you can get from your grocery store for like $6 to $8 that could have very positive effects for your brain. Different forms work for different people. Like magnesium, I would suggest to start with thiamine hydrochloride, start with high doses, and then kind of go from there and see where you are with that. Then experiment afterwards with TDFD, phenpholamine, or salbutamine. So now you know the what, except you know the how. So this stack is going to vary for people because people vary and different things work for different people. You could take nicotine 2 milligrams, you take piracetam 3 to 4.8 grams. You could take pregnenolone sublingually 5 milligrams. Then you take alpha GPC 150 milligrams, thiamine B1 100 milligrams, Cialis microdose 2.5 to 5 milligrams. You could take PQQ 20 milligrams, coenzyme Q10 100 milligrams, and nuclear monotide mononucleotide NMN 125 milligrams. And then in the evening, you could take cyclosamol magnesium. If you needed more stimulation, you could combine methylene blue, rhodiola, saffron. If you needed less, you could combine taurine, L-theanine, bacopa. Side effects may be high libido and overstimulating for some. And check out this video where, after experimenting with hundreds of compounds throughout the years, I have narrowed it down to the 9 best nootropics that the most people are going to get positive effects from, and that are my favorite and that worked the best for me over these years. So check out that video.